So we've reached question 21 in Bahjat An-NaDHar. The question is, give a brief explanation of the statement, whatever Allah willed to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. There's no need for a comma in these spots here. Now, this is different from the previous question. The previous question is, what is the meaning of this statement? Allah does whatever He wills. Now, I'm not recalling how I answered this at first. Question 20. I mean, because I'm going to give my own answer first before I read the answer. But when I read the answer that's here, then I knew that the answer that's here was better than my answer that I gave. I don't know if I said so or not. Why? Because the answer that's here, so I'm on question 20 here. I just backed up. The answer that's here draws attention to something that slipped me when I was answering this. So here's the question. What is the meaning of this statement? Allah does whatever He wills. It was the meaning of the word does that slipped me, which usually doesn't. Who can tell me, please? What does the word does mean here? Give me one word, just a single word. What does the word does mean here? 5, 4, 3, 2. Creator, I'll give you that. But better to say creates. Because the word does is a verb. So to match it with a verb would be better. Whereas if it said Allah is doer of whatever He wills, then you would say doer means creator. But you said creator, I'll let you go for that one. Yes. So Allah does whatever He wills means Allah creates whatever He wills. And Allah creating whatever He wills, His act, His creating refers to which of the 13 attributes? There's several of them you could mention, but there's one in particular I want you to tell me. His creating refers to which of the 13 attributes? Don't tell me will. 5. Power. Correct. Thank you. And then it came in the answer what? It means Allah has the power to bring into existence, yani to create whatever He eternally willed to exist. So that's correct answer, clear answer. Allah does whatever He wills means Allah has the power to bring into existence whatever He eternally willed to exist. And this is according to the way the Ash'aris talk. This is Ash'ari talk here, as opposed to Maturidi talk. But I'm not going to go further now about that Ash'ari Maturidi right here. Here is not the spot. I just want to give you that benefit. This is Ash'ari talk here. Here's the next question. Give a brief explanation of the statement. Whatever Allah willed to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. Okay, so before I read the answer, uh, uh, let's investigate the question, which is really a command. Give. What's the similarity between a question and a command? Both of them have a response. There's a response to a question and there's a response to a command. It doesn't have to be a verbal response necessarily, but there is a response. The Arabic word is jawab. A, there is a jawab, an answer, or if you want, a response to a question and to a command, whether that response is a verbal one uh, or a physical one or something else, Yani. Okay, so here's a command that's called a question here. Give a brief explanation, so not lengthy, of the statement, whatever Allah will to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. So my answer for that would be it means if Allah willed for something to happen, it will happen. And if He did not will for something to happen, it won't happen. That's the briefest, easiest answer that comes to my mind for this question here. Let's see what the answer is here. Answer. This statement means that all that Allah willed to exist must exist in the time that Allah willed for it to exist. Could add something there. In the time and the way. In the time and in the way that Allah willed for it to exist. This equally includes, okay, so that's the answer. And that's approximately my answer. That first sentence is the answer to the question. Anything more is additional information. It says this equally includes the good, evil, obedience, disobedience, blasphemy, and belief. Or you could shorten this and say, this statement means that all that Allah will to exist, no need for this comma here, that all that Allah will to exist must exist in the time that Allah willed for it to exist, comma, including the good, evil, obedience, disobedience, blasphemy, and belief. Period. Okay, now it's all one answer, and you can include the second part in the answer without counting it as a digression. What Allah did not will to exist shall not come into existence. Yes. It will not happen and will not occur. Okay, that's correct. It's clear. Then the author here goes on. The will of Allah is eternal, everlasting, and does not change. What's this though? That's the answer to another question, which is, what is the will of Allah? Or tell me about the will of Allah. What do we have up above? Let's see. Question 18, what is the meaning of Al-Qadir when attributed to Allah? Question 19, state the categories of mental judgment. Question 20, what is the meaning of this statement? Allah does whatever He wills. 21, give a brief explanation of the statement, whatever Allah will to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. Here it says, the will of Allah is eternal, everlasting, and does not change. Okay. Yani, that's fair to be part of the answer without a digression. We want to explain. Whatever Allah willed to be shall be, whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. But seems to me there is something missing, which is what exactly is the definition of the will of Allah? How is it defined? We have here two questions about the will of Allah without defining it in the first place. Yani, these questions suppose that you already know what the will of Allah means, quote unquote, the will of Allah, as if you already know what it means so that these questions can be posed to you. But if we don't assume that you know what it means, then before that, there's another question. What is the will of Allah? How do you define the will of Allah? Can someone tell us? Correct, clear, brief answer? I'll give you a 10 count. Don't guess. You're going to say what you learned by talaqi, not what you comprehend. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, destiny. Well, that's not a wrong answer. It's not exactly what I was looking for, but it's not a wrong answer. I'm going to continue the countdown. 3, not knowledge. Yani, the answer requires a sentence. The answer I'm looking for requires a sentence. I'll give you a hint. It starts by saying, the will of Allah is, and then complete the answer. 2. No. You said the will of Allah is eternal and everlasting. That's what it says right here. The will of Allah is eternal, everlasting. Okay, so the answer I'm looking for is the will of Allah is his attribute. You can say eternal and everlasting if you want, his eternal, everlasting attribute. It is his attribute by which he specifies the creations or the possibilities with some possible attributes instead of others. The will of Allah is his attribute by which he specifies some creations, and he, sorry, specifies creations with some qualities, possible qualities, over others, over other possible qualities. The will of Allah is his attribute by which he specifies the creations with some possible attributes instead of other possible attributes. Meaning, and I can condense that more. The will of Allah is his attribute by which he makes things one way or another. By which he makes things one way or another. That's the will. So we say, for example, Allah willed for you to be a male or a female, or born at this time or that time, or like this, or He willed for you to be Chinese, or Bengali, or Australian Aborigine, or whatever He willed for you to be. Tall, short, slim, uh, thick, etc. So the power of Allah is his attribute by which he makes the possibilities come into existence. The will of Allah is his attribute by which he makes those possibilities one way or another. Take note of that, inshallah. And also, what's going to help you answer questions, if someone asks you a question and you want to answer the question, is to put the question into your answer. That's why I said, I'll give you a hint. Answer the question by saying, the will of Allah is blank. And then you're going to fill in. Because my question is, what is the will of Allah? So you're going to say, the will of Allah is blank. Put the question into the answer and then fill it in. Okay, so now we know what the will of Allah is. After knowing that, then it makes the 20th question easier. What is the meaning of the statement, Allah does whatever he wills? And makes the 21st question clearer also. Give a brief explanation of the statements, whatever Allah willed to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. Those questions are posed assuming you know what will means in the first place. Now, we're still on question 21 here. The answer that's given is, this statement means. So this is a good way to start the answer, because the command is give a brief explanation of the statement. So you can say, well, this statement means that all that Allah will to exist must exist in the time, and if you want, you can add, and the way that Allah willed for it to exist, including the good and the evil, the obedience and the disobedience, the blasphemy and the belief. Okay. And whatever Allah did not will to exist shall not come into existence. It will not happen and it will not occur. That's three things, or the same thing mentioned three times. Shall not come into existence. It will not happen. It will not occur. So same thing was said three times for emphasis. Okay, now then it goes on to say, the will of Allah is eternal, everlasting, and does not change. So this is true, but this information could have been advanced just as far as building on information. But fine, this is where it is. Then it says, the above statement is taken from the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Dawood narrated in his book As-Sunan that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught this statement to his daughter. ما شاء الله كان وما لم يشاء لم يكن. Whatever Allah willed to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. And the Arabic replaces the name of Allah the second time with a pronoun, which I think that's appropriate. Whatever Allah willed to be shall be, and whatever He did not will to be shall not be. If you notice, like here in the Arabic, the name Allah is mentioned once. Ma sha Allahu kan. Wa ma lam yasha, here He is implied. And whatever He did not will, whatever He did not will shall not be. Wa ma lam yasha lam yakun. Okay. This is vital to the answer, because the question is, give a brief explanation of the statement. Whatever Allah will to be shall be, and whatever Allah did not will to be shall not be. Okay, we explained it. But where did it come from? Who said that? Who coined this statement? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself did. So it's very relevant to the answer to mention this hadith. Yani, this hadith doesn't have to be the answer to another question. The command here is to give a brief explanation that leaves it open. That leaves it open to say some details. And amongst the important details is where the statement even came from. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who said this. Narrated by Abu Dawood. Okay. Any question here? As for saying means destiny, will means destiny, Ash-Shafi'i said that the qadar is the will of Allah. Al-qadar is the will of Allah. So that's why I said it's not wrong answer. But it wasn't what I was looking for. Question 22. What is the meaning of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah? Okay. Fair question. There's no translation here in the question. So if you know the answer, you give the answer. If you don't know the answer, then you will remain silent. This is what I was saying about this previous question up here. Question 10. What is the meaning of Al-Ahad? It's enough to put the Arabic there. This translation of indivisible, you don't need it for this question. Just ask, what does Al-Ahad mean? Just like the other question. What does La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah mean? Okay, my answer. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah means there is no power to obey Allah and no power to la hawla. There's no escape from the disobedience of Allah. Wala quwwata, and no power to obey Him illa billah, except by the help of Allah. Then that's the answer, brief answer there. But this statement can take a lot of elaboration and a lot of talk. We want to keep it brief here. Let's see. The answer is the meaning of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is no one can evade sinning except with Allah's protection, and no one has the ability to obey except with Allah's help. Correct. I.e., no one can prevent himself from sinning except if Allah protects him from that. And no one has the strength to obey Allah without Allah's help. Yes. That's answers. That's the answer. Now they want to give more information. They said the explanation of this statement was stated in a hadith narrated by Abu Ya'la. That's the answer to another question, which would be, where did you get this explanation from? Then the answer is, the explanation of this statement was stated in a hadith narrated by Abu Ya'la, with a good chain of narration from Ibn Mas'ud, from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is confirmed that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam urged his followers to say it. Yani, in fact, it is one of his most frequent statements. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And this statement has cure in it. It has cure. It is a cure for 70 ailments, the least of which is depression. Meaning, if you are depressed, say this. Say it a lot. When we say it here, means say it a lot. Keep saying it over and over. Repeat it. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Any one of you who can say this statement correctly, give yourself a day in which you say it 1,000 times. See how you feel after that. Yani go from Maghrib until Maghrib, 24 hours. Say it 1,000 times. You might stop in between. You need to pray, you need to eat, you need to do things. Also, if that's too tough for you, say La ilaha illallah 1,000 times in a day. If that's too tough for you, that's so easy though. Say Allah 1,000 times in a day. If you never did it before, also. Yani, if you did it before, do it. But if you never did it before, you're really the one I'm talking to. Mm, okay. Question 23. It says, Allah has attributed with all proper perfection. Why was the word perfection qualified with proper? Why was the word perfection qualified with proper? Okay. Let's investigate the question quickly here first. The question has a preface, yani an introduction. Here's a statement. Allah has attributed with all proper perfection. That's not a question. That's a statement. That's a declarative sentence. Here's the question. Why was the word perfection qualified with proper? So that's how you ask a question sometimes. There is something. Something was stated. You want to ask about it. You want to make sure that your question is clear. And so you actually repeat what was stated. And then you follow up that repeat with your actual question. Otherwise, this declarative sentence is not needed. Here's the question. Why was the word perfection qualified with proper? But the question is not clear like that unless you know the source of the question, which is the summary of obligatory knowledge. Allah has attributed with all proper perfection. If you know the summary of obligatory knowledge, then you know that the statement is there. So that's where the question came from. So then someone might preface his question with actually repeating what it is he wants to ask about. It's not always necessary though. Some people always do it for anything they ask. Doesn't have to be. Just ask your question sometimes. But some people they don't have good gauge for knowing what's clear and what's not clear. Okay. So what's my answer for this question? Why was the word perfection qualified with the word proper in the statement Allah has attributed with all proper perfection? Hmm. The way I would answer this question is that I would say the reason the statement was qualified, the word was qualified, is because um, perfection, quote unquote, perfection, quote unquote, has is sometimes regarded for the creations. But not all of the attributes of the creations, yani, none of the attributes of the creations can be attributed to Allah. So, to exclude what might be perfect for a creature, such as beauty, intelligence, health, to exclude what would be perfection for a creature, we qualified the statement proper perfection. This means perfection that is attributed to God, not to a creation. So that's my answer for this question here. Although I want to draw your attention to something after I read the answer. So it says, answer. This statement was qualified with the term, or by, qualified by the term proper because perfection is of types. Perfection that befits Allah and other than Allah, such as knowledge. Perfection that befits the creation but does not befit Allah, such as brilliance. That means intelligence. Perfection that befits Allah as a praise, but it would be dispraising when attributed to humans. Such as the attribute of Al-Jabbar. Al-Jabbar is a praise when attributed to Allah, but it is a dispraise when attributed to humans. The meaning of Al-Jabbar when attributed to Allah, without a comma here, is the one not reached by hands, and in whose dominion nothing happens except what he willed. Okay. All of this needs some clarity. And this is one of the statements also, if someone claims he finished the obligatory knowledge. This is one of the things you can test him with. This is a good question. Ah, you finished the obligatory knowledge? Yeah, yeah, you don't do nothing but obligatory knowledge, someone would say. All you ever do is go over obligatory knowledge. When are you going to go over something else? But you know the importance of the obligatory knowledge before you go into other things. Yeah, yeah, I heard it over the years. Okay, let me ask you. What does it mean to say Allah is attributed with all befitting perfection? And then see if he can answer the question properly. This is one of those spots. Inshallah, as we go through these questions, because this covers the whole summary of obligatory knowledge, I'll point out some more for you. Yani, what are we going to call this kind of a question? Uh, Pop quiz question. Now, let me clarify some things for you here. First of all, this word perfection in English, uh, does it work here, actually? What's the Arabic word? So the Arabic word is, that's in the Arabic text, is kamal. Kamal. So this word kamal means, it does mean perfect, and it means complete, and it means excellence, or completion. Completion. Kamal, perfection. Completion, excellence. Okay. Does the word perfect work here? Personally, I'm not sure if it really works here, the way it's being used. Yani, in Arabic, so let's look at the Arabic word kamal, and then we'll see if we can come to some resolution here concerning what I'm raising up for you. This Arabic word kamal, it can be attributed to Allah. Kamal can be attributed to God, and kamal can be attributed to a creature. For sure, there's no problem with using the English word perfection for God. God is perfect, has no imperfection. But would someone who has an imperfection be perfect in any way? This is what concerns me. I'm talking about the English word perfect, not the Arabic word kamal. Would someone who has an imperfection be perfect at all? Perhaps. Yani, what's the imperfection of the human? Imperfection of the human, ignorance, for example. We are ignorant of something. We don't know everything. Only God knows everything. We are attributed with ignorance. There's no escape. Ignorance is not perfection. But can you say, though, that a creature is perfect? I think you can. Like, wouldn't someone say, "Oh man, that sister, she's perfect," or "Oh, that brother, he's perfect," for example? I think so. There's no problem. Nobody's gonna say, "No, you can't say that," even though this one they're calling perfect would have some flaws. So then it means perfect in some way, not in every way. So that's what's meant here when it says here perfection that befits Allah and other than Allah. Other than Allah has an imperfection in some way or another way. So then, if we accept this word perfection here, then the perfection of God is absolute. And the perfection of other than God is relative. It's like if someone were to say what I said, the example I gave you. Some brother is head over heels for some sister she's head over heels for some brother. Oh, he's perfect. She's perfect. It's not absolute. Doesn't mean absolute. And no one would think so. I don't think. Yani perfect means without a flaw. So just because I have slight concern here about the way this word is being used in English, sometimes I say the perfection of Allah and the excellence of the creature. But in Arabic, it's one word, kamal. The kamal of Allah and the kamal of the creature. The kamal of Allah is His perfection, and the kamal of the creature is that creature's excellence. It's a little bit easier for me. But maybe I'm nitpicking here. You don't have to say what I'm saying. If what's said here works, you can say what's said here. Okay, so that's one thing. But now it goes on here. Perfection that, the second point here, perfection that befits the creation but does not befit Allah, such as brilliance. Okay, some people are more brilliant than others. We say, such as, what else? Beauty, health, nice shape. So, some creations are more brilliant than others. Some creations are more beautiful than others. Some people are healthier than others. Some people have nicer shape than others. So, you would find someone who has, let's say, a really nice shape, man or woman. I'm not talking about something, just generally. Like a man could look at another man and say, man, his shape is nice. He inspires me. I want to work out. Like this, for example, nice shape. Okay. So, but someone might say, that's a perfect shape, but then maybe someone else has even nicer shape. So, Here comes another person with an even nicer shape. So the first one, his shape is perfect. And the second one came, his shape is even better than the first one. If the first one's shape is perfect, then for sure the second one's shape would be perfect if his shape is nicer. So is the first one perfect? So if so, then that's relative, not absolute. All right. Now I want to go back to the first point here. Okay. It says perfection that befits Allah and other than Allah, such as knowledge. Okay. I think all of this talk is becoming clearer. What does this mean, though? It befits Allah and it befits other than Allah? Yeah, so this takes a little bit of comprehension. There's no contradiction here in what we have been saying. Because the knowledge of Allah is unlike the knowledge of the creation. So, how does this perfection befit Allah and befits other than Allah, yet Allah is different from the creation absolutely? Because it's not the same knowledge. It's not the same knowledge. And I'm avoiding the word kind. I'm not going to say the same kind of knowledge because I don't want to say that the knowledge of Allah is a kind of thing. I'm just going to say it's not the same knowledge. So they are different. Okay, how does that work here, though? How does this sentence make sense? Because what is understood from knowledge is praiseworthy. What is understood from knowledge is praiseworthy. So when you say God has knowledge, then this is a praise for God. And if you say Sheikh Sheikh Abdullah or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has knowledge, then this is also a praise. But it doesn't mean that we are talking about the same thing. Yani, knowledge has a meaning. What we are getting at here, the gist of what I'm getting at here is what's called in Arabic ittifaqun, ittifaq, ittifaqun bil lafz. Sorry if this is too crammed there for you. Ittifaqun fil lafz. This means agreement in wording. Not meaning wording. Agreement in wording, not meaning. So we're using the same word, not the same meaning. This word, when used for Allah, has a meaning of perfection. And when used for the creation, has a meaning for perfection, has a meaning of perfection. But when used for Allah, has its own meaning. And when used for the creation, has its own meaning. And so someone might argue with you here and say, it sounds to me like you're contradicting yourself. You claim that Allah is absolutely different from the creations, and you attribute to him what you attribute to the creations. You attribute to him knowledge, and you say knowledge befits him and befits creations, and knowledge is perfection for him and perfection for the creations. And then you're going to turn around and say to me, but his knowledge is different from the knowledge of the creations. He's going to say, his point is to say, it's the same kind of thing. So there must be a similarity. And Wahhabis talk like that, by the way. That's a proof for you that Wahhabis are truly people who liken Allah to the creations. They are the ones who say, well, how are you going to say, why you deny us saying hand and face and eye? You say knowledge and power and will and sight and hearing and speech. Okay. So what makes the difference then? That's the golden question here. What makes the difference? The difference is that you cannot replace one with the other, even if you use the same word. The knowledge of God is inapplicable to the creation, and the knowledge of the creation is inapplicable to God. Therefore, they are not the same. We say that two things are alike when they are interchangeable. And as long as they are not interchangeable, they are not alike, not in the way in which they are not interchangeable. For example, if I say to you, bring me two things, then if you bring me uh, a butterfly and a rock, then you brought me two things. They are interchangeable in terms of being things. But if I say to you, bring me two living things, then you cannot bring me a rock. The butterfly works, but you have to bring me something other than the rock because the rock is not alive. So the rock then is different from the butterfly. Now, if I say, bring me two living flying creatures, then you can't bring me a fish unless it's a flying one. Subhan al Khaliq. Allah creates those fish too, the fish that can glide. Allah creates whatever He wills. He created fish that can glide, He created birds that can swim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So then you're going to bring me, for example, a butterfly and a bat. Now they are similar because of the condition. Like this. When two things are interchangeable, then they are similar. As long as they are not interchangeable, they are different. The knowledge of Allah is inapplicable to the human. The knowledge of the human is, or any creature, and the knowledge of the creature is inapplicable to God. So they are different. But knowledge for Allah is a praise, is praiseworthy. And knowledge for the creation is praiseworthy, as long as that's a praiseworthy knowledge. Not like magic, for example, that's a blameworthy knowledge. And then this third point, perfection that befits Allah as a praise, but when attributed to the humans is a dispraise, like Al Jabbar. So Al Jabbar for a human doesn't say what it means for a human. It only says what it means for Allah. It says here, Al Jabbar is a praise when attributed to Allah, but is a dispraise when attributed to humans. The meaning of Al Jabbar when attributed to Allah is the one not reached by hands, yani untouchable, the untouchable one, and the one in whose dominion nothing happens except what he willed. Okay, what does it mean for creation? It doesn't say here. So I'd say this is incomplete because it leaves you wondering. Means for creation, bully, tyrant, oppressor. That's Jabbar for human. Also, Allah has the name Al-Mutakabbir. For Allah, His praise means the great one, the perfect one. But for human, it means arrogant. So, the synopsis of all this talk here is that there are words. We're talking about words here. All of what this boils down to is the meanings of words. There are words. If you use them for Allah, they have a praiseworthy meaning. If you use them for a creation, they have a blameworthy meaning. That's one category. Then there are words. If you use them for the creation, they have a praiseworthy meaning. If you use them for Allah, they have a blameworthy meaning. That's second category. Then there are words. If you use them for Allah or for the creation, they have a praiseworthy meaning. I just gave you that backwards, Yani, in the opposite to how it has been presented. I gave you the first one first. Use it for Allah is praiseworthy. Sorry, I gave you the last one first. There's three here. One, two, three. I gave you three first. If you use the words that if you use them for Allah, they are praiseworthy. If you use them for other than Allah, they are blameworthy. Number two, if you use them for other than Allah, they are praiseworthy. If you use them for Allah, they are blameworthy. Number one, Yani, which is the third one I'm giving you. If you use them for Allah or for the creations, they are praiseworthy. Because of these details, we needed to qualify the word perfection and say that Allah is attributed with all proper perfection, or another word for proper is befitting. All befitting perfection or becoming. But Hajjah doesn't prefer the word becoming, but means befitting, but he prefers befitting over becoming. That's fine. Do you have any question?
Sheikh, you said when two things are, and I didn't get the rest, but it was in reference that they go together or they're
Okay.
it's good.
Here's the word interchangeable. If two things are interchangeable, then they are what? Can you tell me? Five, four. Here's another word, replaceable. Not the same, not the word same, but different word. Similar. Hakada, similar. If two things are interchangeable, they are similar. Some scholars actually said if two things are exactly identical, then they are similar. Exactly identical in every way. Then they are similar. If they're not exactly identical in every way, they're not similar. That's too far. That's not accurate. Rather, if two things are interchangeable, this is the accurate saying of the Ash'aris. If two things are interchangeable, then they are similar in the way that they are interchangeable. They will be similar in the way that they are interchangeable. So, if Sam, for example, is a jurist and he's a poet, and Fred is a jurist and he is a gymnast. Is that IST? I might have spelled that wrong. Then, how they are similar in being jurists. This is how they can replace each other. This is the similarity. This is the way in which they are similar. But Fred, if he's not a poet, and Sam, if he's not a gymnast, then in that way they are not similar because they cannot replace each other. طيب. Barakallahu feekum. We'll stop here.